Hello and welcome to the Leadership Room, where we dive into business and leadership lessons behind the real success stories. Today, I'm joined by Grace Hardy, an accountant, entrepreneur, and social media powerhouse. Now, Grace has built her business, Hardy Accounting, on the back of social media, making finance more accessible and helping business owners take control of their numbers. She's also the host of the Unconventional podcast, where she gives her insights on financial education and business growth. In this episode, we'll be talking about how she turned content into clients, what it means to be an unconventional CEO, and the leadership lessons she's learned along the way. Stick around if you've ever wondered how to grow your business through social media, or if you just want to hear some great advice on entrepreneurship. So, Grace, welcome to the Leadership Room.
No, thank you so much for having me.
That's a pleasure. So I guess start by telling me about Hardy Accounting. When did you start? What do you offer for your clients?
So I started Hardy Accounting when I was 21 years old. I had just finished my 3-year apprenticeship and I was deciding what I wanted to do. I always knew I wanted to be self-employed, but I didn't really know what it would be in. I wasn't particularly great at one specific thing when I was growing up. So I just didn't know what it would be. And then I came to the end of my apprenticeship and thought I would go travelling. And so I handed in my letter of resignation and then started looking, obviously, in Bali to try find myself like every other girl. But unfortunately, it was rainy season and I had 3 months until I could go away. So I said to myself, I can go back and work in hospitality for 3 months and just potter around. Or I'm a qualified accountant. I could just start my own practice. And if it doesn't work, fine, I'll go live my best life in Bali. And then if it does work, amazing, I'll have my own practice. So we set it up just servicing sole trader partnerships and limited companies, everything from bookkeeping to annual accounts and payroll, etc.
Fantastic. Okay. And you're quite passionate about financial education, right? So what's the biggest misconception people have about managing their finances?
I think probably just the biggest misconception in general is that it doesn't affect them, but it affects absolutely everybody. And they think that you need a large amount of money to be able to manage your finances, but you should be managing your finances from day dot.
Okay. And you describe yourself as an unconventional CEO. Mm-hmm. So what does that mean in practice?
In practice, that means I just like to do things a bit differently. I have very severe dyslexia, which is one of the reasons I chose to do an apprenticeship instead of going to university. So I've always done things a little bit differently, and I always think in a bit of a different way to the conventional person. And I've obviously taken unconventional routes in life, and that's how the name of the podcast got started. And so I thought, I'm just going to own it, and it's going to be a brand now, and I'm going to be an unconventional CEO.
Okay. Do you think it can be turned into an advantage?
Yeah, 100%. If I was the same as everybody else, no one would look at me twice. I'd be boring. I'd be doing what every other person is doing. But now, because I'm unconventional, I do things a bit differently. People take notice because it's different.
But I guess being different, there must be an aspect of that that's quite scary. Because, I mean, the normal thing is kind of safer, right?
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree. But just in my personal life, in my whole journey, I've never done anything that's normal or gone with what people have said. I've always taken the other route. And so I think it's kind of installed in me to just take the leap, take the chance. You don't have to do what everyone else is telling you because realistically, that doesn't suit me as an individual. And unfortunately, I'm not going to thrive in that environment. So I'd rather do something a bit different that's going to make me a nicer and better person.
Okay, fantastic. So how do you balance, I mean, you've got a great social media following, right? How do you balance being a business owner, a content creator, and an accountant?
I think the honest answer is ADHD. My brain goes 100 miles an hour all of the time. I'm terrible. I don't really section a lot of stuff in my diary. I'll section content days as and when. But for me, just enjoy everything that I do, and I want to do as much of it as possible all of the time. So I'm constantly doing 101 different things. If you were to spend a day with me, you'd be like, oh my God, you need help. But I still get 10 hours of sleep a night. So I don't sacrifice my sleep. I just manage to fit in a lot more than the average person, probably due to my ADHD.
Okay, brilliant. So has that ever been a challenge for you, do you think?
Yeah, 100%, all of the time. So I talk about my ADHD and my dyslexia quite openly online. I obviously struggle to read and write, and that's kind of one of the basic skills you need in life. So I've definitely struggled with that, but I've been so lucky that during my apprenticeship I got loads of help. So I use softwares to help me read and write and spell. Also, the use of AI is really important. So if I get any big emails or documentation, I'm able to put it through AI and it's able to give me a summary, which is really helpful. I communicate with my clients via voice note rather than long paragraphs because I can't type them out and they don't make sense. In terms of my ADHD, there's so many difficulties that come with that. So exhaustion, not being able to focus, not being able to regulate your emotions, that sort of stuff is really, really difficult, especially when you're a business owner and you don't really have a routine. So that's definitely been a challenge, but there's so many benefits that come with it.
Okay, and what was the turning point when you realised that social media was working for you? In growing your business, in general?
Yeah, 100%. So I think when I got my first client from social media, I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. I originally set up social media probably a couple of months into running my business, purely because I hated networking. I really struggled with it. There was a lot of prejudice and sexism there. People going, oh, do you work for your dad's company? Oh, whose PA are you? Whose partner are you? And I'd be like, no, it's my own company. And they'd be like, oh, good joke, and like laugh at me. So networking events isn't really somewhere I felt safe or comfortable. I wasn't really getting a lot out of them. I definitely was not getting clients or any meaningful connections that would help in the long term. So I thought, oh, people go on social media all the time for businesses, especially small businesses. I thought, why don't I just do the same and like see what happens? And so I started posting consistently last January. And from there, I think when I got my first client through social media, I was like, oh my God, this works. People trust me because of videos I make online. And like, that's a really bizarre concept, but I guess I'll keep going with it because clearly I'm getting noticed. And it was like when AAT reached out to me, I think it was February 2024. And they were like, we've seen you posting that you did an AAT apprenticeship. And in my head, I was like, oh my God, those people I did my exams for have noticed me because I'm posting on LinkedIn. And then the month after that, the Department for Education reached out to me because I was posting about my apprenticeship and they asked me to speak at their annual conference. And I was like, this thing like really works. And I was like just so amazed by the whole thing.
Wow, okay. And you've developed sort of one of the best personal brands in the accounting space, I would argue.
Thank you.
What advice would you give to someone that was trying to develop their own personal brand? Because I'm kind of going through that journey a little bit at the moment. I try and post on LinkedIn, once a week perhaps, but it's quite difficult, especially when you don't see, the feedback that perhaps you were hoping for. What would your advice be?
Yeah, I think posting on social media can be very demoralizing, especially at the beginning, because you see all these people with loads of followers and you're like, how did you even do that? Because I'm getting 3 likes and one of them's me on my fake account and the other one's my mum and my sister. Like, what are you doing? I think it's really important to first go away and decide your content pillars. So content pillars are things that you want to be known for and the values that you want to stand for. So for example, mine personally is financial education, being a young business owner and apprenticeships. So everything I post will revolve around those content pillars. And I think it's really important to understand what you want to be known for. And I think a big misconception about personal brand is that you need to give away everything online. You need to tell people your whole story and all this and that. I don't put like half of my life on social media. People think I'm very open because I'm open about things that I personally want to be open about. But I'm not putting my personal dating life on there. That's a bit too much. But it's about being yourself. Like when I started posting on social media, I'll show you a reel one day, but it was gross. I'd sit in like a suit with like doing like those face videos. And I'd be like, today we're going to talk about payments on account. And it was so boring, but it was because I was trying to be serious and I was trying to be taken seriously by dressing how I thought I should dress and talking about things I thought I should talk about, not necessarily what I wanted to, but I thought that's what would make me be taken seriously in the industry and by clients, because obviously I'm quite young. And then as soon as I put all of that in the bin and I started being myself and wearing what I wanted and talk about what I wanted to, that's when it really started taking off. And I think with a personal brand, you have to find your USP, and your USP is yourself, like being authentically you.
Okay. And within that, it's working out what your content pillars are. So if, for example, I didn't know what I wanted my content pillars to be, how would I go about that? Is it about experience? Is it about stuff you're interested in?
It's about stuff that you're passionate about and what you want to be known for. So, for example, if you were in marketing, you'd want to talk about marketing for your niche perhaps, or marketing things that have helped you, or different marketing campaigns that you can comment on, like the Gymshark one, for example, the billboards they did of different things that have lasted longer than a TikTok ban. That's a great marketing campaign. So talk about other people's marketing campaigns, your own journey, and then marketing tips for your niche as well would be a great start for content pillars.
Okay, fantastic. So let's talk about the podcast then. How has the podcast helped you grow, A, your social media, and B, your business itself?
I think in terms of growing my social media, when you run a podcast, it puts you in a place of authority. And I think that's been really important for me. The second thing is that you get to speak to such amazing people. And I always say to everyone, someone is more likely to come on your podcast than go for a coffee with you. So you can use that time on the podcast to pick their brain about everything you want to pick their brain about, because it's a two-way street. They get exposure. We film our podcast in person, so they get all of the videos and short clips as well, and they don't have to pay for any of it. We edit it on our side, and then we share it with them. And it also means that I get to interview really cool people. And when you're sitting next to an MP, well, people's perception of you are like, well, Grace knows an MP, so she must be pretty important. And it sort of works like that, which is really interesting. In terms of building my business, we definitely have seen an uptake in clients from the podcast, because we sit down with a lot of founders and talk about financial education and their struggles and their journey. But to be honest, that wasn't the aim of the podcast. The aim of the podcast was to show that you don't have to take a conventional route to be successful. You can come from any background in any industry and still make it. And just sharing other founder stories for me was really important.
Okay. I mean, the leadership room is currently in its infancy a little bit. You're one of our first guests. So for me, what advice would you give me?
I would always say, find a USP. Do something a little bit different. I always ask the same question at the end of every single podcast, just to round it off really nicely. But make sure that you're always adding value.
Okay. Fantastic. So we do a little section at the end of our podcast, or we're going to be doing a little section at the end of our podcast called The Secret Sauce, in which we want to just ask some quick fire questions, perhaps one word answers, nice and snappy. Would you be up for doing that?
Of course.
Okay. So what's one key leadership lesson you've learned from running your business?
Oh, God, this is meant to be quick fire and my brain is not working. I don't know.
We'll accept a one sentence answer as well.
I don't know. I don't really lead anything other than my jelly cats and a couple of subcontractors. But I think it's genuinely just about being yourself and communicating clearly with your team.
Okay. And if you could give one piece of advice to yourself when you were just starting out, what would it be?
Care less.
Care less. I like it. Best resource for wannabe business owners?
I think CapCut's really good, especially for editing videos, because that's kind of the theme of today, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And one word that defines personal branding for you?
Being yourself.
I like it. Okay. Is there anything you wanted to sort of plug? Anything you wanted to mention?
No, I think we covered everything. You can find me on pretty much every single platform ever created. And I love pumping out some content.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Grace.
No worries. Thank you.